Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Yeah. Yes, ready to go. Okay, we'll just re-adjourn the meeting. What's it? Resume the meeting, yes. Please bear with me today. It's the last two times I've chaired the meeting. The IT problems have sort of reared their heads, so I don't know if there's a pattern emerging, but we'll sort of see. But okay, well, look, resume the meeting, and I would like to sort of firstly start off with the acknowledgement of country, and would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today, the Darumbal people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to the neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gangaloo Nation people, the Barada and Kabbalaara and Yatamalara people, and also acknowledge the Torres Strait Islander people whose land is on the Torres Straits but also live and work on Aboriginal land. Next, I would like to actually ask if Pastor Justin Morgan would come to the lectern and just say an opening prayer.
Heavenly Father, we come before you and give you thanks for your goodness and for your love and for your protection and for your guidance. And we thank you for the place of governance. We declare our dependence upon you for wisdom in governance, Lord, at every way. And Lord, I ask your blessing to be upon this entire region, the Rockhampton Regional Council, and all the localities, all the communities that it governs and represents and is its servant. I ask, Lord, your comfort to be upon our community at this time. Lord, many, Lord, have concerns, Lord, regarding COVID, regarding income, regarding, Lord, uncertainties, and Lord, also, Lord, some, Lord, suffering, Lord, losses, Lord, whether that be material losses due to downturn in business, Lord, others, Lord, having unique circumstances that are unfamiliar. Lord, many concerns and anxieties. May your peace and your comfort be upon them. Lord, I think also of those, Lord, in recent times who have lost loved ones. And Lord, even here today amongst us, Lord, we have, Lord, the Rutherford and the Mathers families. Lord, may your grace be upon them, upon the Lord, and your comfort be upon them in the recent passing of their father. And Lord, we thank you that you're a God of comfort. And Lord, at any time we can pause and you are present. Lord, when we turn our eyes towards you, you're able to speak. And so, Lord, in this way we, Lord, do ask your blessing, Lord, for guidance and for understanding to be upon, Lord, this room and upon the councillors, upon Rockhampton Regional Council as they carry out their duty. Lord, give to them wisdom in decision making. And Father, I also ask for favour, Lord, with other levels of government. Lord, things that, Lord, are not directly, Lord, in the control of this room, but Lord, in many ways, things that come down and are imposed upon a community. Lord, I ask you for this region, that you would give to it favour, with regard to funding and grants and all those mechanisms at each level of government. I ask you for favour. And Lord, in all of this, Lord, I recognise that you are the God of all. And Lord, I thank you for your peace. May your peace be upon this day and upon this community and upon this meeting, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Justin, for that. Okay, we have item 3 on the agenda, the apologies and leave of absence. Councillor Rutherford will be an apology, has tendered an apology for today. Sorry, I've just lost my... Okay, my screen has just crashed. I'm just opening it up again. Sorry. My apologies. Still having a few little IT. Okay, we've got a leave of absence from Mayor Williams, and also an apology. It's back up now, but and also Councillor Rutherford had tendered her apology and won't be in attendance today. Just as we're moving on. Item 4, confirmation of minutes from the previous meetings. Now, we've got 2 minutes of the ordinary council meeting on the 25th of January. We'll do these 2 together if that's okay. Yep. That's okay? Yep. Okay. And then we've also got the meeting of the special, the minutes of the special meeting held on the 1st of February. So, someone happy to move that these are true and correct? Moved Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Mathers. All those in favour? And that's carried. Now, next is any interest to be declared on any items in the agenda. Councillor Smith?
Yes, thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. 10.2 for the Australia Day grants, Boulder Cone Progress Association. I've been a member for over 20 years, so I'd like to declare an interest and leave the room for that one, even though the Australia Day has already been. It's in retrospect, the grants, but I'd still like to leave the room. Thanks.
So it's just through a membership doesn't actually create, so Councillor, it's up to Councillor Smith how she wants to deal with it. Just having a membership doesn't create the under a declarable conflict of interest. However, it's up to Councillor Smith.
And Councillor Smith?
Well, I normally do leave for that one.
Okay. So Councillor Smith will leave the meeting. Councillors, anyone else have any items to declare? If not, you can do that before that item arises. Item 6, there's no business outstanding. Item 7, no public forums or deputations. 8, no presentations of petitions. 9, there are no council delegate reports. We move on to item 10. And the first one there is from Advanced Rockhampton, and it's the ICMJ Northern Beith Conference. And I think, Greg, can you move to the lectern and...
Thank you, Acting Mayor and Councillors. I think this is another sponsorship and partnership proposal brought today. I'll keep it brief. The ICMJ, the Intercollegiate Meat Judging Northern Beef Conference, held here in 2019 and 2021 as part of Beef. In 19, it attracted about 100 delegates and about 20 companies. Beef attracted more than that, purely because of the amount of people that were in town. We're targeting more than that this time, but ours is a partnership proposal. We work closely with the ICMJ to ensure the next generation of beef, red meat professionals and students and such know what Rockhampton is, know where the beef capital is, and they're connected. A big target this year for the ICMJ is also trying to get some of the companies and investors involved in this conference more than they have in the past. So we're looking forward to see what they come up with. They've certainly got a larger sponsor list than they've normally got, which has allowed them to grow the offering in the conference, not just settle for what it's been in the past. So our proposal is to be a partner/sponsor of this event for the amount of $5,000.
Thank you, Greg. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Chair. Look, I'm really happy to support this. I think we've had similar discussions when we looked at Beef Australia events as well, that we really need to underscore and cement our position as the beef capital of the universe, and so this is an ideal way to do it at a very modest price, I might add as well. But it sort of stirred up a little bit of a thought with mine that I've had before, and I've been explained to me why it's difficult to do it, but it says in the brief there that it's a way to showcase the quality of our beef. And it also highlighted other well-known brands of Northern Australian beef. It's always been a sore point with me that we don't do that, because all the beef, my understanding is, gets quartered up or halved up and set off somewhere, I don't know why, and then comes back to us. So we can't say that, yes, this is beef that came from out west from here. So maybe when you're chatting and networking with these businesses, can we just keep prodding away at that? If there's some way that we could keep the best of the best and market it as ours, and I know previous graziers, Actons comes to mind, have tried to do that with, I thought, some success, but I understand there might be some very legitimate technical problems why that can't happen, but I'd love to see it branded with Central Queensland beef on it, or Rocky beef, even better.
I agree, Councillor, and pardon the pun, but I've had a beef with that since I arrived here 15 months ago, but I can't go down to the local restaurant in a lot of occasions and buy local beef. So I think that's something with our future discussions with Beef Australia. I think we can work closely with them, even though there's Beef Australia, but maybe how we might be able to source that signature beef out at Clermont has been very successful so far in doing that and achieving that local supply and local butchering. But they've also received a number of federal grants to achieve that. So maybe that's something we can look at in the future as well.
I think while you're on that, the other one is, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been lobbying with the Blackall-Tambo Regional Council, Barcaldine Regional Council, for that missing link between the township of Blackall and Jericho, so that a lot of that organic beef from the Western Queensland would make its way here into Rockhampton, which I actually also was very much. There was a number of operators out there that were very keen to actually see their branded cattle breeds marketed. So I think this is really good, and sort of really good to see that Advance Rockhampton is sort of really making headway in that space. Keep that beef up. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Greg. Greg, I just wanted to say I'm really pleased that you brought this to the table, and thank you very much for that. It's a pretty big thing for Rocky to actually have this conference. I'm pretty sure the southern arm of this was, I think, down in Armidale or something like that, and they've done it for a lot of years, and it's a pretty big coup for it to come north and for it to be here in Rocky. So I'm really pleased that we've got the opportunity to support it, and agree with Councillor Wickerson in regards to this is just we're the beef capital. We've got to make sure that we're supporting these types of events as much as possible. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor. And he won't be listening because he's on long service leave, but a shout out to Wade Clark, who has spent a lot of energy in making sure this relationship has grown to where it's grown to. So, and as I've always said, one of our key focus areas is agriculture, and beef is a big part of that.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I think it's really a great sponsorship and something we should be involved in. It involves young people, young men and women. Actually, the women look to be leading here with 3 photos of the ladies, which is wonderful to see, because you didn't see that years and years ago. but more and more women are taking on properties and etc. But I think it's really great, wonderful. We should do more of it, like involving these young people. They're making the decisions, they're making the way forward with that project. So I think it's really great. Happy to support it. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So the recommendation is that the Rockhampton Regional Council secures supporting partnership at the Australian Intercollegiate Meat Judging Northern Beef Conference to be held in April 2022 at the cost of $5,000 excluding GST. Someone happy to move? Moved Councillor Mathers, seconded Councillor Smith. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously.
Thank you, councillors.
Thanks, Greg. Move on to our next item, which is item 10.2, the Australia Day Grants Program. Now, we're going to split this into two because Councillor Smith has will leave the room when we deal with the Boulder Cone Progress Association. So we'll deal with, firstly, the Rotary Club of Mount Morgan. Now, as we go through, Mark, would you like to just give us a little bit of a
Yes, thank you.
briefing?
So in 2013, Council resolved to establish Australia Day Community Grants program to assist local organisations to coordinate community-based celebrations across the region. This year there were 3 applications submitted, of which 1 pulled out due to COVID. The resulting 2 were funded, one of which is the Rotary Club of Mount Morgan, which they put together a Food and Australia Day celebration at the Dam in Mount Morgan. I believe this went quite well. Looking for retrospective endorsement from Council for these activities.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Wickerson is the portfolio councillor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair. And I only want to make a comment that I think most councillors attended, certainly the Mount Morgan event. I think we were nearly had a full house up there, and many went from there down to Boulder Cone and also enjoyed that. So these are great ways to build community. I think the numbers were down a bit for the obvious reasons, but I think the spirit wasn't. It was still there, and flags flying and kids having a great time. So in these times, it's even more important for our mental well-being to be out and getting back to a little bit of normal. So happy to support it, happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yep, absolutely echoing what Councillor Wickerson has just said, and I actually, when I was at these functions, expressed to the volunteers that our region, our communities are indebted to the volunteers, because if it wasn't for their initiative and their follow-through and their consistency in delivering projects such as the Australia Day celebrations out at these venues, then those communities would most likely not see an event at all. So again, very happy to support this, and congratulations to those organisations that put their hand up and continue to produce a product that the community can come out and, as Councillor Wickerson said, just get back to normal and celebrate life and celebrate the place that we live in. Yeah, it was very well represented. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. Where would we be without our Rotary clubs and Lions clubs? I mean, you know, a lot of elderly people still running these events, and we're so friendly and so appreciative of us all being there. Their flag raising ceremony was just absolutely beautiful, and the Mayor raised the flag, and I think 5 or 6 of us were there as well, which is really, really good. I haven't been to an Australia Day event anywhere else where they do that. So really, really good, and they need to be congratulated, all those. As we said, that without our volunteers, where will we be? And yeah, wonderful morning. We were actually, I didn't intend to be there that long, but it was so good. I got into trouble for being late getting to Boulder Cone. So yeah, fantastic. Worth every cent.
It's really good. So it's been moved by Councillor Wickerson, seconded Councillor Smith, that this is retrospective, that Council retrospectively endorses the grant to the Rotary Club of Mount Morgan. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Now we'll move on to the second part. Councillor Smith will leave the meeting.
Thank you. So the second group, the Baldercombe Progress Association Inc., looking to retrospectively endorse their Australia Day activity for $2,000. They provided an enjoyable and fun morning local community gathering at the Baldercombe Recreation Complex, had historical displays, market stalls, craft displays, and some musicians performing as well.
Thank you, Mark. Well, firstly to the portfolio councillor, Councillor Wickerson, any comment?
Oh, no, thank you, Mr Mayor.
You're happy to move?
Same as before.
Councillor Kirkland?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair. I really just wanted to bring attention to the Baldercombe Progress Association and the amount of work that they put into these events that they present to the community there is quite exceptional, and a group of the locals had actually put together a whole heap of posters about their history, the history of the area, their family history, and of course that was really insightful. And so for people who have not been out to any of the Baldercombe, I'm looking at all the officers in the room, if you haven't been out to any of their events, can I strongly encourage you to just take a day trip out there, because what they present is always very, very, very good. So, and you'll enjoy the company of all the locals as well. They're super friendly. So yeah, I support this, of course, in retrospect.
You're happy to second?
Yeah.
Yes? And Councillor Latcham?
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. And just like to go further with Councillor Kirkland's assessment of it. And it was a really, really nice morning out there at the Baldercombe area, and it was well supported by the community. And also people from Rockhampton who had gone out there, and the thing that I really enjoyed most about it was the fact that they did have the history of the families from the area, and you're able to read up on them, and not only that, you're able to sit down with some of the locals, and they talk about the old gold rush days of Baldercombe and Crocodile Creek, and there's some of the things that it's always nice to hear from people who've lived in the area, and the stories they've got to tell about such a great area out at Baldercombe. So it was a really nice morning.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wickerson?
Thanks, Mr Chair. No, I've been inspired for another story. And there's a reason why Councillor Smith probably had to leave the room is one of the prominent families of Baldercombe is the McAvoy family, as we all know was Councillor Smith's family. So it was nice to read up on some of her heritage as well. And yeah, so it's good and that experience is brought to this table too. So interesting.
That's very, very... Actually, it's something that we do need to... We don't tell the story of our community, and it's not just the sort of the history of the family, but how many of our parks do we get asked the question, how did those parks get named, and how many roads and different ones? I think our next generation are so hungry to know more about their history, both the European and Indigenous history of our community. Maybe it's something that we should sort of look at doing more and more, and actually having that story, being able to tell that story. And I think that's a very, very good point about sort of some of the family ties to different areas would be really great. So anyway, we've just moved off focus for a moment, but that this is that Council retrospectively endorses the following the grant to the Baldercombe Progress Association. Moved Councillor Wickerson, seconded Councillor Kirkland. All those in favour, and that's carried. Thanks. Mark, you're
Back again.
keeping you busy today. So we're moving on to item 10.3, and that is the Regional Arts Development Fund 2021-2022, round one of funding recommendations. And across to you, Mark.
Yes, the applications received for round one of the 2021-22 Regional Arts Development Fund have been assessed by the RADF committee. 2 applications are recommended for funding. In total, there were 5 applications, 3 of which the committee felt did not reach or meet the requirements. I am asking for Council to approve the following applications for funding from the Regional Arts Development Fund. That is the CQ Embroidery Circle to $5,000 to attract embroidery tutors to Central Queensland to provide professional development and education to local stitchers across the local communities and small group workshops. And the other grant is for the Rockhampton Youth Orchestra for $8,008 to partner with Brisbane-based Topology Music to deliver creative boot camps in the Rockhampton and Mount Morgan areas.
Thank you, Mark. Across to Portfolio Councillor again, Councillor Wickerson.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just to reinforce the two successful applicants there, and the committee really dwelled in on the development part of RADF, and sometimes we overlook that, but in both of these examples it's bringing in renowned and highly qualified experts from outside the region to train our own people to bring their skills up. In the second one with Topology, I think they have done some activities similar to this before with huge success, so to have them back again is just a real bonus to up-and-coming musicians. Of the ones that missed out, and there were 5 applications there, some of them didn't meet the mark with the development part of it. There was no really measurable or community benefit outcomes from them, so that's why at least one of those failed to succeed. But with the other 2, and remind me, Mark, I think they were close, but I think you're going to get back and work with some of the unsuccessful applicants.
One in particular was quite good. We just needed them to sharpen the pencil on budget and process and project management, so we can work with them.
So the essence of the projects were sound, but they just need a bit of help with the application process so that we could see that the outcomes were there. But just goes to show what talent we've got in the region, and happy times ahead, I think.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kirkland and then Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Mr Chair. Look, I love the fact that we have this fabulous state initiative of the RADF funding to help people, to partner with council to deliver wonderful initiatives. And I'm looking around the room at the offices. If you haven't heard this Rockhampton Youth Orchestra, you need to. They are outstanding. I've seen them on a couple of occasions now. I'm looking at the embroidery circle, haven't seen that, sorry, can't help you, but I am sure on the advice of the officers that this is a great initiative and it's exciting. So I'm always happy to see us partner with organisations that are putting their hands up. So to all those organisations out there who have not yet done that, perhaps you should jump online.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair. RADF's been around for a long time. And in another life, I went to a workshop, to be like a judge of RADF or to help people. And I've always found that a lot of people are never sure whether they should put their application in or not, because they're not really sure what it's all about. They don't get the benefit side of it. And I know our staff would be working with the people that missed out. I feel for those people that missed out. At least they took the initiative to apply in the first place. At least they're doing something cultural in our community as well. So, I was pleased to see the Rockhampton Youth Orchestra. I've also seen them a couple of times. They are really good. Our young people are good. You only got to see the school musicals to see, that we have got so much talent. So, I just hope some of these other people can do more with their application and get over the line next time.
Okay, Councillor Wickerson as Chair, you're happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Kirkland. All those in favour? And that's carried. And I better read that Council approves the following applications for funding from the Regional Arts Development Fund. Okay, we'll move on to item 10.4, the current grant program and project recommendation. And Anne, welcome back to the lectern.
Thank you, everybody, and good morning, councillors. This is another report that just goes through some of the activities that we've got going in terms of applications for funding for various projects. So I'll just go through the list. If you have any questions about the projects specifically, I'll probably have to defer to maybe Peter or Angus or even Alicia on some of these things. But to start off, we have the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program. This grant program requires that construction starts at least by the 3rd of January, but projects can be completed by the 30th of June 2023. There's no deadline for getting things into. It's just recommended that councils get in their projects into the program as soon as possible so that they can start those programs. So 2 projects have been identified. One is the River Rose Drive connection with a proposed project cost of $2.2 million, and the Campbell Street reconstruction, which is projected cost of $1.2 million. So there's the project total is $3.4 million. The program itself has we have an allocation of just under $2.97 million, and that's leaves the remainder then for council to make up in its budget. So that's the LCRI. The next grant program is the Building Better Regions Fund, and we've got another round of this. It seems like we've just finished one, but we've got another one here. This is round 6, and again, there are 2 streams. There's the infrastructure stream and the community investment stream. We've got 2 applications in for the infrastructure stream. One is the North Rockhampton Sewage Treatment Plant, Part B. It's a 3-part project, and we're seeking funding for Part B. Part B has costs which are estimated between $18 and $20 million. We're saying that that's $20 million in our application. We've now kind of finalized that. So we are seeking $8 million in funding through this program. For capital projects, there is a $10 million maximum amount that can be applied. Applicants must contribute at least 50% of that. So we've deemed that since it's a $20 million, while we could have asked for $10 million, it's likely to be much more appealing if we ask for $8 million for this one. The second project is the Rockhampton Zoo Animal Welfare Operations Center. This is to replace the current admin building that's used for food processing and staff amenities and offices and such. We have estimated project costs of $4 million. We'll be seeking $2 million in funding for this. The zoo is we received funding in the previous round for round 5 for the visitor hub under the BBRF program. For the community investment stream, which can cover a range of different types of activities, including capacity building, events, and strategic planning, we've identified 2 different projects that we're going to be putting forward for funding for this. The first is to do with providing leadership training for delivery of Council's Reconciliation Action Plan. Now, at the time that this report was put forward, we had anticipated, we didn't know yet exactly what those costs were going to be. Within the grant program itself, if you put in a project, an application for $20,000 or less, you can receive 100% of that funding, so you don't have to make a contribution. So we're just finalizing the cost. It will be less than $20,000, and we'll be applying for 100% of the funding for that. The delivery of that project is contingent upon receiving funding, however. So the second project under the community investment stream is the Climate Resilient Rockhampton Region Management Planning, and there are a couple of these projects where you'll kind of see that we've applied a number of times for funding. We're just trying to make sure that we do get funding to support these programs, so we're applying to as many different kinds of grant programs as we can for some of these. So, and I believe this is one of them. So for this one, the project costs are estimated to be $450,000, and we are seeking $225,000 in funding. Again, this is one where delivery of the project is contingent upon receiving funding. The third project for the community investment, again, it's a climate resilient leadership training workshop. We are going to be seeking 100% of the funding, which is $20,000. So whatever we can get with that $20,000 is what we'll be providing through that particular project. The next grant program is the Local Government Grants and Subsidies Program. We have, with that program, there is just under $86 million available. $5 million this particular round has been set aside for planning projects, which is something new for this particular program. So we've identified one main capital works program, which is an infrastructure project, which is the Arthur Street Pump Station upgrade and repairs. There is a project budget estimated at $8 million, and council is seeking 60% or 4.8%, or 4.8 million in funding. This program can fund up to 60% of project costs. For the planning stream, we have identified the Rockhampton and Gracemere long-term water treatment and distribution strategy. Project costs have been estimated at $300,000, and again, we are seeking 60% of that. The impact on our budget would be $120,000 then. The next program is the Queensland Resilience and Risk Reduction Funding Program, which is one that comes up frequently. We have put forward two projects. As you can see, one of them is one that we're applying for under another program as well, which is the Climate Resilient Rockhampton Region LGA-wide Climate Risk Management Planning. Again, the project costs are estimated to be $450,000. We're seeking 50% of the funding, which is $225,000. And again, delivery is contingent on receiving funding. And then the last project is Leading Regional Resilience Climate Resilient Leadership Training Workshop. Project costs are estimated to be $30,000, and council is seeking $25,000 in funding, with the $5,000 to be contributed by council. So that's the list of grant applications that we've got on the table just at the moment, and the projects that we're putting forward for those.
Thank you, Anne, for that. Any questions, Councillor? Councillor Wickerson?
Thanks, Mr Chair, through you to Anne. And it's great that we're putting in multiple applications to the different grant streams. If we were successful, I'm just looking at the climate risk management planning, if we were successful in two of those, are we able to put both parts of the funding into the one project? Or if not, are we able to reallocate it to maybe the next one down our priority list, or a new project altogether?
Yeah, for the QRF, there is a priority listing of projects. I'd have to go and look in detail into the grant guidelines to see how well they may or may not work with each other. In most cases, you have to list in the application what funding you're expecting to have as part of your project. So in effect, our application, we haven't said that we've got this funding, or any, you know, what could happen is if we received funding and decided that that project, we need additional funding, we can say in another application, well, we received funding from this area to contribute to the delivery of the project. But I don't think that it's likely that we can make these things kind of work well. However, if we do receive funding from one, we probably could say, could you reevaluate the priorities that we have under that other program then. Yes.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thanks, Mr Chair. I just wanted to ask about the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program. Just a question. With the time frames of delivery that quite often, and you said that this has no specific time frame, I suppose my question is around other projects that are have been waiting in the wind for quite some time. In the event that we're successful, in the grant for this particular project, does that then change the time frame delivery of other projects? I'm looking across at Peter or...
Actually, the no time frame is to get in our projects. It's not the projects themselves that don't have to have a time frame. So there is no time frame, there's no deadline in effect for us getting in our projects there. Everything has to be completed by, I think it was the 30th of June, 2024. So, yeah, but I'll kick over to these guys if they have any.
Sorry. Yeah, I think your question is around about, will this delay other projects? Is that the question?
Yeah.
The answer is no. No. If we are successful with the grant, we can build this particular project into the program and not affect the others.
Okay, that's great, because obviously there's some some projects that are happening in the community that people have been waiting for a long time, and they would be very saddened to hear that they were pushed out and not considered. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair. Good to see Campbell Street reconstruction, because that's a really well-used street. Very old sections of that street as well. The River Rose Drive connection, is that the one that the locals don't want to see joined up? And that goes past Bunnings. Will that be opened up then from Bunnings straight through? Is that the idea?
It is, if I may, Mr Mayor, it is the River Rose Drive from the highway where Bunnings is, and it connects then to the Forest Park side of River Rose Drive. I have consulted with the community out there. They know it's inevitable. They actually are welcoming it. They are concerned about larger vehicles, trucks that would use that or use it to access it to get down to Yeppoon. So that's their only concern, and I've been reassured that Council's on top of that one as to how they'll mitigate against that. So the community knows about it and will embrace it.
That will certainly be a shortcut to the Yeppoon Road. Is there any way you can put a load limit on it, or to stop trucks going through there at all, Peter?
Look, we are looking at all those options, but we'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
Let's build it, see how the traffic changes and the patterns, and then we'll look at what we might need to do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Councillor Atcham, Councillor Smith on those. Any further questions? No further questions. Someone happy to move? Councillor Kirkland, Councillor Smith, that Council seeks funding for the recommended projects through the following grants program as listed on the screen. There's no further questions. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Anne, for that. Actually, that was very, very good summary of the projects. Okay, now we move to the 2022 to 2027 corporate plan. And Elisa.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and good morning, councillors. Council's existing 5-year corporate plan is due to expire later this year on 30 June, and councillors would be aware that throughout 2021 a body of work was undertaken in developing a proposed new corporate plan for the financial years 2022 to 27. A copy of that proposed corporate plan is contained in attachment 1 of the report before you. The development of Council's strategic goals and efforts outlined in the plan involved considerable amount of engagement of yourselves, councillors, as well as Council staff, and sought input from the community. It's acknowledged that councillors are in the process of working through future budgetary priorities with our leadership team. However, it should be noted that our corporate plan, despite being a 5-year document, can be updated at any time should Council wish to change its strategic focus. The proposed new corporate plan contained in the report outlines Council's new vision, being one great region, live, visit, invest, and it's based on the themes of our council, our community, our economy, our environment, with infrastructure underpinning what our council delivers. Each year, our annual operational plan will be developed to determine what particular activities Council will carry out in achieving the strategic goals outlined in the corporate plan, and work on the 22-23 operational plan will commence in the coming weeks along with the 22-23 budget. Finally, I just want to quickly acknowledge the contribution of many officers that have helped put this draft plan together, particularly Anne Davey. Really appreciate all of your help, Anne, in driving what I believe is a great draft document. So I'm happy to take any questions. Otherwise, the proposed corporate plan is presented for adoption.
Councillors, any questions? I know that this has sort of been something that there's been a lot of activity as far as preparation work, and I know a number of times there Mr. CEO, if you don't listen, but I was actively going through all of those proposals when I was supposed to be not doing any council work, but it was actually quite good to see how this has sort of come together and formed. Yes, it was. But I every now and then, while I was on leave, there were items on council's agendas that I was very, very keen to keep up to date with. So, with that, look, I think it's actually been very well put together. I do have to commend seeing a large wide-bodied jet for the airport section. One of the frustrations I always have, we always seem to have the smallest possible plane used in any of our publications about the airport. I do like to sort of see everything going big, so that was really good. I'll open it up to councillors. Any questions? Councillor Kirkland?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I really just wanted to say a very big congratulations to everybody involved in bringing this. People who fail to plan to fail, and this is a very good plan, and so I am excited about it, and I think that if we can bring all of that to fruition, our region will be very, very blessed. So congratulations, Alyssa. I know you've done a lot of work on that, so yeah.
Councillor Smith.
Just to comment that it's great reading, and I love the photos. I think photos make a document more interesting to read, and all current ones, and great photos. It was really good.
Councillor Mavis.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, look, just a comment. I just wanted to say, as a new councillor, I was happy and impressed with the process that we went through step by step. It was quite in-depth. We had time to look at it, consider it, make whatever changes, so at no stage did I feel that we were under pressure to rush this through. So, just want to say thanks very much to everyone that helped put it together.
Thank you for that. If there's no further questions there, I'm happy to move that the Rockhampton Regional Council's 2022 to 2027 corporate plan be adopted. Seek a seconder. Councillor Smith. All those in favour? And that's carried. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Alyssa, for that. And don't leave the lectern, because our next item is also for you to present.
Thank you again. So this next report is presenting Council with our Operational Plan 2021-22 Quarter 2 Progress Report. So this report is required under our local government legislation, and we're required under that to provide you with an update on Council's progress in achieving the operational plan targets. The report, you're all familiar now with the format, and the actual presentation this morning will be similar to previous ones. So first of all, I will hand over to our Manager of Office of the Mayor to provide an update of the Office of the CEO area.
Thanks, Alyssa. Morning, Mr. Chair, councillors. This report is largely focused on Office of Mayor, with the Department of Office of CEO during the second quarter, a significant body of work, as councillors will already be aware, was undertaken in relation to Council's advocacy priorities, particularly those in the lead up to the upcoming federal election, which is anticipated to take place in May this year. This included the endorsement by Council in November of those priorities for the federal election, 11 in total, the development of all of the supporting collateral for the majority of those priorities, together with the initial meetings that have been held and coordinated for the Mayor to be held with all the candidates that have been announced to date for those electorates of Capricornia and Flynn. Separate to the upcoming federal election, there has also been a body of work that we continue to undertake in relation to Council's broad priorities, particularly with other levels of government and stakeholders, particularly in our northern suburbs, and just prior to Christmas in relation to Council's initial response to the announcement or notification from the Queensland Local Government Grants Commission in relation to the changes to the financial assistance grants methodology and its allocation. The communications team have also provided extensive support across the organisation for a variety of engagements and campaigns that a number of my colleagues will no doubt refer to separately here this morning. And for the executive support team, one of the highlights has been the work that was undertaken in preparation for January's Australia Day celebrations in terms of those civic components. The one action, councillors, you may have noticed from the report in the operational plan for which progress has been delayed slightly has been, or certainly involves the adoption of Council's Reconciliation Action Plan, with the extension of the target date for Council adoption proposed to be extended through to 30 June this year. As noted in the traffic light report, this is being sought to allow for additional time for those traditional owner groups to actually approve the draft Reconciliation Action Plan, while we also engage in further discussions internally around how we are going to obviously properly resource the implementation of that plan if endorsed by Council. Separate to that work with the Reconciliation Action Plan, however, councillors, there has been some further work undertaken and engagement with our traditional owner groups across our region, as noted in the last report from Anne, particularly around some potential grant opportunities for with our Reconciliation Action Plan, and also with our working group and other facilitated meetings with our traditional owner groups and elders during that reporting period. But happy to take any questions.
Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor, and possibly Damon, but it may involve Peter. You referred to the traffic light reports, and I just want to draw attention to the footpaths. It says it's on track to have 200 metres. It's only completed 200 metres of the 1,000 metres of new footpaths for this year. With only 3.5 months left, will that be completed?
If I could, I think when Peter comes to the lectern, he'll do a report to Councillor Latcham.
Okay, no questions. Damon, you've been let off lightly.
Thanks, Damon. Next is Greg Bowden to provide an update in relation to Advance Rockhampton.
I'd like to say I'll be brief, but I won't. But my usual story. This is my favourite part of the quarter, getting up and both speaking about what's happened for the last quarter and what we've got planned for the rest of the financial year. But if I can cover off sort of the 5 major areas, and I've tried to pick out just sort of one thing out of each because it is pretty self-explanatory into there. But in that resource construction field, it seems like so long ago, but the successful Careers Expo happened in October last year, because we are talking about Q2. We're working closely with the schools. It was the only sort of chink in the armour for the Expo this year. We just have to continue that engagement with the schools to get them more and more active in this space for that side of things. Ag and water, it's been very much around the Rookwood Weir landholder support and grants program. In Q2, we signed the contract. We also a huge amount of engagement out in industry, whether it be out at Yamba, out at Gogango, or in town here, to make sure we capture as many of those landholders as we could. It was oversubscribed, which is good and bad. Good that it proves that we have demand for water here, and we need to continue to build those opportunities along the way. And then stage 1 started, and that was really around that engagement. Stage 2 is happening in Q3, and we'll talk more about that in the next update. Defence, the Mayor and I were fortunate enough to be able to engage with the AI Hub, the Artificial Intelligence Hub, and also then, as part of that partnership, visit Rheinmetall and start that engagement of how they might be able to use Rockhampton services or have some sort of level activity here to get one of those primes in just a small way activated in Rockhampton is a real positive for us. So that was just step 1 in getting Rheinmetall to know, put Rocky on their radar. From a renewables point of view, Epuron received state government approval for their project to continue to stage 2. That one for us means they have to go out for an EIS now, and that is about a $750 million investment with potentially 300 to 350 jobs during construction. And I think that's, off my head, about 370 megawatts of power when that is finished. I will mention a second one in there, and that is, if you don't know the brand Tesla, you should. Tesla also have announced that they will be supplying the batteries to the GenX project as well out at Boulder Combe. Tourism marketing, we saw the 10K Thready released and not caught. We also had the ongoing creation of video content. So if you're not watching Explore Rockhampton and or the app, I do recommend you jump on there and see some of the video content that's being produced there. And we'll have more to talk about there because we're about 1 minute away from signing a decent partnership with Tourism Australia to continue to push out that video content. From the events side of things, again, the Barra Bash was in October. We had the Light Up the Sky in New Year's Eve, and our ongoing focus on Rocky Nats is really important to us. We've nailed down the full scope for the event now, and it's full steam ahead in delivery. So, from a traffic lights point of view, probably the most important one for Council is our new economic development strategy. We'll put some media out. As you know, we had an engagement in December here in the chamber with the consultant. We'll have a public engagement. The invites will go out in the next sort of 24 or 48 hours for us. Here, but our consultant has been out there one-on-one engaging, but it's important that I think we have an event, and we might even have a date claim in your calendar already, councillors, with the general public as a larger event. So that one is on track. Probably a couple that have fallen a little just bit of watching and maybe behind is the jobs and investment pipeline, because that really was always planned to tack onto the back of the economic strategy, and the circular economy paper, we've got that discussion paper. We'll go out for a consultant in the next week or two for that one. So it's just pushed back a little bit, but not very far. It'll certainly be delivered in this financial year for a discussion around this chamber. So that's me. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions to Greg? Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. E-scooters. Can you give me an update, please?
E-scooters, we will have a media release go out this week. The permit has been released to the successful proponent, and I'm led to believe that is effective 24 February. I'm looking at Alicia, but I think Alicia and I both know what date it is. It's the Friday the 24th of February. We will have scooters scooting around this city. So it's exciting, but as I say, we're trying not to talk too much about it yet because we are working with the proponent to make that official announcement and get it up and running. But great to be able to work with, whether it be with legal, with Alicia's team and my team to get this up and running. It's a bit of a journey, because there are risks associated with this, and we wanted to make sure that our exposure was limited as part of that. So a bit of a longer journey than expected, but we're really excited that we're now there.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just with the e-scooters, great. There is a lot of concern about them on footpaths and going so fast and everything. Is there, like, say in the CBD, are they allowed on those footpaths? Are they allowed everywhere, or
probably
certain places not?
I'll cover off in probably 2 or 3 ways, Councillor Smith. Firstly, there's a lot of concern, but guess what? There's a lot of excitement as well in other cities. So if you Google, you get lots of positive stories, you get lots of negative stories. So from our point of view here locally, Bart, to probably cover more importantly what you're asking, East Street between Fitzroy and William will be barred. You won't be able to ride them through that main business and retail precinct there. But that's really the only place that we're geo-fencing in the city. You'll be able to take them anywhere else and move around. There is a geo-fence which is more driven by the proponent, so they won't go all the way out to the university yet, but that's driven more by the proponent just wanting to get to know Rocky before they expand it too much. So you will be able to get to Stockland, you'll be able to get around most business precincts, but certainly you will be able to ride them on footpaths. Legally you're not supposed to ride them on the road. I won't say that won't happen, but again, that's me, that's to the police, not us.
Are they going out to Gracemere or Mount Morgan as well?
No, I think it will be a long time before Gracemere sees them. Yeah, so no, you won't have them out there. At this stage, our map sort of takes us out to Stockland, along Musgrave Road, all through the southern business and sporting precincts.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to seeing all the councillors all on an e-scooter. They're scooting down one of our
We have the video camera ready.
Roadways in the region. Yeah. Thank you, Greg, for that.
Thank you, councillors.
Thanks, Greg. So next is our Deputy CEO to provide an overview for corporate services.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, Mr Mayor and Council. Okay, so some of the challenges we faced this quarter, no doubt has been the airport, has been quite a challenge with the passenger numbers, which are down. You will note through the reports, the financial reports, and also this report, though, that we are tracking pretty much on budget. While our revenue's down, we've been reining in expenses as much as we possibly can, so we are, at this stage, running on target. So those numbers will hopefully pick up. January has been, as in most businesses and that have found as well, also been a bit of a struggle, but we haven't confirmed those numbers yet. But down the line looks a bit more promising. We continue to work with airlines to make sure, to try and get the schedules implemented to achieve our numbers. So that challenge will continue for a little while, but there is a little shining light at the end of the tunnel there. So that's good. You also note, or you may have noted if you've been out that way, that there's been a lot of work done on the aircraft manufacturing maintenance site out there. There's been, huge amount of work. So they're really getting stuck into that project. Mr Mayor, the other couple of things I did want to point out. There has been quite a turnaround in our customer calls, as per our customer service charter. Penny, who's not long been with us, been with us a little while now, but has come on board and really focused on that. The first quarter we were averaging around two minutes per call. We're down to 29 seconds, so they've put a particularly good evidence, quite pleasing to see. So whole team have really done a good job in that space, so credit to all of them. The other one, just a couple of things to point out. Our suppliers have been paid within trading terms. Our target 90%, which is really good. It's also good for our suppliers to get that cash, so which is good. Our corporate technology services met all their performance targets, fell under a little bit on our service levels, internal service level, target 90%, we're down to 82%, mostly affected by leave and a couple of terminations during that period, so we hope to pick that up, we will pick that up. Also the safety team saw the approval of their health and 21-24 health and safety strategy, and the 21-22 action plan was also endorsed. There was 12 actions for that quarter, 8 were completed and 4 were just completed a little bit after that time. So pretty happy with that. The finance, you would have seen the finance reports where 50% of the year through, pleasingly, we're at 50% of our operational revenue, which is right on target. But even more pleasing, we're at 48% of our operational expenses versus budget. So that puts us at a quick view, took us a little bit ahead of our target. We'll notice capital is becoming a bit of a challenge to get our capital done. So we expect that will ramp up over the next few months, but that will be something for us to address as we go through the budget process and how this year pans out. The other things that have happened, you've just adopted the corporate plan. That took up a lot of work from a lot of people during the first two periods, that's for sure, but it did really ramp up the last quarter. So that's been pleasing. And I think it's just the COVID has been quite a challenge, particularly for Alyssa's team, trying to keep the directives and information go out to the management. So there's weeks there where I think Alyssa's whole team or most of the workforce and government were just about sucked into that vortex of information. So I won't go through all the traffic lights, Mr. Mayor, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions to the Deputy CEO? Ross, you got let off very lightly.
Thanks, Ross. And next up for a community services update is our General Manager, Alicia Cutler.
Thanks, Alyssa, and good morning, councillors. So I've had to prepare this because community services is pretty diverse, so I don't want to forget anyone. So in the parks portfolio, we've had the announcement of the grant towards the renewal of the Mount Morgan pool. So we're very shortly looking to commission a designer to work up a number of concepts for that site, and that will be workshopped with council, and we'll also discuss community consultation at that stage. On the operational front in parks, we've done a restructure and that improves the resources in this area, and that will actually allow us to work through the service level discussions over the next 2 quarters for this operational plan rather. It's noted that there's significant challenges with the maintenance of median strips, and in particular the changes to the Department of Main Roads legislation for working on all roads. The benefit, of course, is improved safety for our staff. However, it doesn't come without cost, and the time taken to seek approval with Main Roads to do the work is making things particularly challenging, so we're working through that. On the good news, we have a new addition to the zoo with a baby chimpanzee, baby Missouri, being born on the 8th of December. So this shows that our zoo is playing a significant role in the conservation of this species. So in the communities and cultural portfolio, the changes to the Queensland Health Directions took focus in December with a number of council venues requiring vaccination before the entry is allowed. So that took a fair works, and thanks to Alyssa's team particularly to help us out there. Jersey Boys, promotion here, was announced as the community musical for this year. We've had a strong response to the audition call-out, and we've cast the musical and rehearsals are underway. So that event is in March. Councillors, I hope you will all join us. Some key projects for the year kicking off during this quarter. We've got the Gracemere Cemetery, which has started, the Salyards Park lighting upgrades, and the Gracemere Workshop extension, which includes some water infrastructure upgrades for firefighting capacity, so it's a good improvement. Our physical move took place to the Rockhampton Museum of Art in Q2. We've all been to that facility. It is an amazing facility, and we're now well prepared for the opening on the 25th of this month. So I've had my sneak peek at the Gold Award entrance for the opening show, and it's very impressive, and I encourage you all to go and have a look. On the safety front, it's pleasing to see that we've got CCTV improvements at City Hall, and thanks to the Information Services area to help us with that. And I'm pretty keen for the arrival of our 2 new mobile units, which will hopefully happen in this quarter. in the planning and regulation portfolio. This unit continues to be under significant pressure, with the activity in the region being double or even more what it was 2 years ago. So it's particular pressure in there. In addition, we've had the growth within the Parkhurst area, and we had a report to the last council meeting with a number of those trunk infrastructure requirements coming forward and those subsequent negotiations with developers that are having to work through. On the environmental portfolio, we've had those 49 priority actions commence and quarterly reports produced. We've awarded the Sustainability Action Schools Calendar Competition, which is a great community initiative with all the schools. Another initiative in this area is the commencement of our council's emissions inventory. So this will provide us a baseline for future targets and reporting. So it's an important piece of work. Overall, the department, for council's information, I've had a number of new leadership roles commence. I've had Emma Jane Dwyer, as she is our Manager of Assets and Facilities. Jonathan McBurney is our Director at the Art Gallery, or Rockhampton Museum of Art. Mark Millett, who you met today, is our Coordinator of Major Venues. And I've also had some existing employees step up, with David Richardson, is the Coordinator of Facilities, John Buckingham, who is the Coordinator of Local Laws. So we've got some great people and skills, and I think we're well equipped to move forward with the challenges ahead. Finally, just in regards to the report, there's one action or one change proposed on action 1.2.1, and that is just to extend the timeframe from March through to June, and that's around the consultation with the showgrounds and Victoria Park master planning users. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Probably I'd like to sort of just touch on briefly about the issues with the maintenance and TMR. I actually see this as a bigger problem. Here we are at one level, we're concentrating and putting an enormous effort in reducing the impacts of climate change in our community. Then we see TMR almost going to the point there where they're actually sabotaging our efforts because we're creating greater and greater heat islands. I hate driving up past the university now and into Parkhurst and just look at that acres and acres of concrete. Almost there, everything that, all the hard work that's going, that we're looking at ways of reducing the impacts of the heat and in our community, and then we look at, wow, all you see is concrete. When we know that in other parts of the country they're actually putting a greater effort on actually having canopy trees and reducing the impacts on our community of the rising temperatures. And all I see is that this is going to be a report every time we have these reports, those issues and those roadblocks. Surely they're within TMR, that their environment section and their infrastructure section don't talk. But also it must be hard on your team when they sort of see those goals that they're setting out and having to deal with that. And then on top of that, the areas there that look fantastic, look cool, actually doing the great bits, you've almost got to do that with both hands tied behind your back and almost your legs in leg iron to actually maintain it. I think this is an area that we really need to probably be taking a little bit more interaction with the department and sort of trying to work out what is going on with their thought process in this, because one thing there that Rockhampton has always been recognised was those beautiful sort of plantings along the highway, the sea of gold that welcomes people, the beautiful canopies. So I think this is one that sort of picked up and felt was sort of rather concerning as we move forward. So I'm not quite sure, Mr. CEO, where we take that from here, but there's a cost to our community, both dollar-wise and also the climate impact.
Yeah, councillors, if you recall, December last year or late November, there's a resolution passed that there is a meeting to be arranged between council and Department of Main Roads, and that's in progress now.
Thank you for that. Now, we've got a few questions there, so I'll start with Councillor Mathers and I'll work around.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Just through you to Alicia. Alicia, I just wanted to say, it's, thanks very much for the work that you've been doing, but it's, I'm really pleased to see that you're working along with Aaron and his team in regards to the mowing of our parks and, median strips and that sort of stuff. We know we've talked about it a lot, and I'll probably sound like a bit of a broken record, but it's one of those core businesses that people expect, and we need to make sure we're getting it right. So thank you for the work on that you're doing there. Look forward to seeing how we're going to make changes to improve that service moving forward. And the other thing I'd like to do, I'd get in before the other councillors, and I'd like to call dibs on one of those mobile surveillance trailers for Division 3 as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Get in line.
Yeah, that's right.
Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Chair. Through you to Alicia, I've got two different areas, and the first one is about CCTV. I've already got one. It's not mobile, but it's in a very a hotspot in my area. This is the question around the procedure for Queensland Police to access the files. There's a bit of confusion even amongst our own staff that I've heard back. So my understanding is that at the moment the process is a bit clunky, that they, because of freedom of information and privacy rights and all sorts of things, even though the police at their command centre can see great big monitors, exactly what our cameras see, legally they can't use that without our permission. So if there's an incident, we have to tell the police that they need to ask us to get the vision back, and it's clunky. So my understanding is that police are working on that with our officers to streamline that. I just wanted to know, is there an update on that process?
Yeah, through the chair. So that has actually happened now and was completed late last year. So I guess it's fair to say that the processes that we had around that sharing of the CCTV and allowing access to was a little antiquated. So we've just brought it up to speed so that they've actually can have the access, and I believe it's working much better.
Okay, no, that's excellent. And with these new mobile devices coming, that's even more relevant now, that it's going to be much more effective to try and address some of these anti-social behaviours. Now, the second one's to do with the Rockhampton Museum of Art, and I wanted to thank everyone involved in the massive project. And there's lots of media interest in this too. I did a couple of interviews this morning, and all very positive. Even some of the more well-known businesses down in East Street, very excited about the opening. They can see now what we have envisaged for a long time, the economic benefit that that's going to bring people into the CBD. Related to that, also very excited about our new cut-through.
District links. Yes.
So the links, that's also very exciting. They were asking about the timing of that. Would that be open in time for the gallery? I said, we're doing our best, but obviously we had a delay.
That might be a question through to Peter, yes, because I saw it last Monday, Tuesday, and it was particularly disappointing. But have you got an update, Peter?
We're doing our best to see.
Yes, I think I use
what I'm going to say. It's not the easiest project.
No. And in some of these interviews, I've said, look, to explain why the process was so complicated, it wouldn't matter whether you were shifting our whole collection around the world, or as we are, just down the street. You've still got to go through the same process to protect all that artwork, catalogue it, crate it, make sure it's all protected, to move it just that short distance. It doesn't matter how far it's going. So, but people appreciate that. But so we're all looking forward to the opening, of course, very, very soon. But in that process, obviously our feature work in the Long Gallery, I understand, is all but complete. I just wanted to make sure that credit where credit due, that the Philanthropy Board get full credit for that piece. In the mix of opening all that, we don't want to forget anyone that's been involved, and I understand the process for that. So I think I've asked through Evan or someone before that can we make sure that both the sponsors to that, and there were many, and also I think Durumble were involved in some engagement to make sure that it was everything was appropriate. So just to put out a media so that before all the excitement of the grand opening, that the Philanthropy Board get the due credit for what's an incredible piece.
Yep, will do.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor. I totally agree. I think that's a very, very good idea. Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks. Pleased about the mobile CCTV. I wanted to book one permanently for Gracemere, because I'm sure it was all the trouble at the pump track that caused us to find some money. Is that true, Alicia?
It's probably the start of it. That was certainly the one councillor that I first had to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wondered, and I've been meaning to ask Councillor Mathers and keep forgetting, have we got a new pound keeper at all?
A new
pound keeper? You know, the person that goes and gets cattle off the road or...
So I can update councillors just in respect of that livestock collection or something like that, the terminology. So we were unsuccessful to get anyone external to do that, so that service is now being brought in-house with the actual staff member that does the majority of that work.
Are we, in the future, going to put up yards at Gracemere instead of having to take livestock to Mount Morgan? Because it's not a real good holding yard up there. It's just a...
Certainly not on my radar at this stage, Councillor.
Very
That's
old
the first I've heard
wire
of it.
fence paddock that you'd have to have quiet livestock to stay in there. Obviously they are quiet, the ones I take up there, but geez, I'd hate to see any cattle or horses that weren't fairly quiet.
We've certainly got a staff member that's doing those duties, yeah. Livestock on roads, yep.
Yeah, so, sorry to dwell on this one. So, are we going out after hours at all? Is probably the question I'm coming to.
Yes, we are.
We do go out after hours?
Yes, we do.
Because I don't think people realise that if it's a main road, it's police. If it's one of our roads, it's council. But the police used to always get council to do the patrol and the pickup, whatever.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'm just going to ask one further question. It was something that Councillor Wickerson raised. In the process of, so with the opening of our new art gallery, the story of how our art collection originally happened, and even just the picture of Mayor Rex Pilbeam at the time and Prime Minister Whitlam and his move for moving Australia culturally could have two completely different leaders at the time, but both with a passion of seeing that artwork. I think the public would love to know that story of how Rockhampton benefited so greatly. And, all of those years ago, it's our community and now have seen the benefits of the vision of those two leaders of the day. I'd love to see that story told somewhere in the future, because I think most people would shake their head and sort of think, well, no, there's no way those two would have anything in common, yet they actually work together to give us one of the best collections in regional Australia.
So just to respond to that, Mr Chair, to our councillor briefing session next Tuesday, Jonathan will actually come along and talk to you about the opening exhibitions, and certainly there is a focus on Mayor Pilbeam and his contribution. The other piece of it is he'll also run through the scheduling for the opening weekend, so that, and just to flag to you, there's lots and lots of things going on that weekend, so keep it free.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. So next, for an overview of our Regional Services Department, is General Manager Peter Crowford. Yes?
Morning, councillors and Mayor, Deputy Mayor. Okay. I'll first talk about civil operations. Very unusual year for civil operations, but I'm going to talk about rural first. The rural program has been untouched and has operated as normal. So we're 60% through our rural gravel resheeting program, and I think we've done, the report talks about 240 kilometres of grading. So civil ops in that space has been normal business. For urban, a totally different kettle of fish. So we have finally completed the Department of Main Roads footpaths. There's a tiny little bit of work just finishing off one section at the moment. So you will see now quite a lot of footpath when we talk about what did we build this year, and I'll come to the KPI in a minute. I haven't got the length of that footpath, but I will find out how much we've built as part of Main Roads. There are a couple other road projects that we've had to construct due to grant requirements, and they're under construction, and we are busy looking at the program now and reprogramming the entire civil road program, and we'll bring that back to you when we've done that. In the other major projects, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to present a council report next meeting, which will be all of the major projects in that report. But just to let you know, Glenmore Water Treatment Plant is in the design phase. It's at the 70% design phase, so it's getting there. Physical construction will start soon. North Rocky Treatment Plant, where we've done the tender assessment and hope to award towards the end of this month, that project. Okay. Obviously, the art gallery, from my perspective, is completed, other than some minor defect work that will go on for some time. But I hope when you're there, you don't even notice them. Okay, they're very minor or hard to see. The airport is in a similar vein. We're really just in the final touches, and that entire project is complete. So, as I said, it does go on for a little few months after, where we're wrapping these up, but effectively all the works is done. Okay, I'm just going to drop, there's a couple of traffic lights I need to highlight in that op plan. And the first one is proposed deletion, which is the, let me read it to find it, 1.14, which is review and update Council's floodplain management strategy. You'll see it's flagged for deletion. The reason being is purely resources. The work required to complete the business case for the airport levy has been quite large, and that same person has had to keep going on that. So we've just deferred that strategy review. It doesn't have a great consequence on where we sit, and we'll reassess whether we can do that in the next financial year. Mount Morgan water supply project is going well, and I hope to have a first cut of that business case to you in March. Okay, so proceeding better than planned, which is pleasing. Okay. The only other one is the asset management plans. At the back of the document, we were doing two. One was bridges and major culverts, which Council received prior to Christmas and is endorsed. The second was sewer and water. So that plan is on hold because of the review that we are undertaking through FRW, and part of that is the assets. It's not the time to rewrite that plan. We will at the end, and that will be an outcome of the project, but we've just put that on hold. Okay, I've got two performance plans, Fitzroy River Performance Plan and Waste. Fitzroy is performing well. The financial performance is good. Water consumption has been pretty much the same as last year, so that's good. The only thing where we are behind, and it's not going to surprise you, is in capital, and that's because we've really parked the capital program. Okay. There are two areas within FRW where KPIs have not been met, and it's in two areas. One is unplanned interruptions to water supply and sewage blockages. Now, they're higher than normal, and we're just going to monitor that for the next quarter and see what's going on there. But there's nothing that we can see that's driving it. It's just a situation that's occurred. But we'll keep an eye on those two KPIs. Okay. I'm going to jump to Waste report. Waste is performing well. It is meeting most of its KPIs. The only one it's not meeting is we had a surge in bin repairs and we couldn't meet that demand, so the target didn't meet. But as far as collection services, all the targets are being met. Within the manager's report, there is a reference to the polystyrene recycling facility. Remember, we brought it along at a workshop, and you'll see we've diverted in one quarter 1,200 cubic metres of polystyrene. So that's a significant saving to our landfill ongoing. The FOGO strategy, the FOGO trial is working really well. We've got a diverse range of people. I think it's 750 households. It's just surprising how many people have embraced it and are really on board. So it looks promising for the future in terms of FOGO for a service. And we'll obviously, at the outcome of this final trial, this will all be fed back into the state, but you know, it is highly likely we will be going down that path of that FOGO bin. And that's all I wanted to draw Council's attention to, so happy to take questions.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Peter, you said, I think, yeah, we're going to award the contract for North Rocky Sewage Treatment Plant next month. Have we found out if we were successful with that grant? Didn't we put a grant application in for stage 1? And I just wondered...
yeah, we've got multiple grant applications.
Yeah,
in.
we just did a stage 2, I think.
Yeah, you just did a part B, yeah.
But have we heard about part A at all?
No.
Okay. So can we actually start that?
We have, council's allocated sufficient funding
Yeah.
to commence part A. Okay, so we've allocated 48 million, and that is sufficient funding to start part A. And at the next workshop where I update you on the FOW projects, we'll talk about the part B, which was just talked about in that grant application, and what that will mean in terms of budget and how we do the timing.
Okay. And the Gracemere one is still being detailed up?
No, it's on hold, and we are doing two things for Gracemere. We are trying to immediately deal with the odour issues.
Yep.
So we're working on that and how to fix that. And we are bringing back a new strategy to council on the Gracemere South Rocky treatment plants. And when you endorse that, we will then commence the work. Okay? But if you recall, you last adopted the strategy, I think, in 2014. We've effectively been doing the work to update that, progress it to show where we've implemented parts of that plan, and then we'll highlight to you what is the next 20 years ahead.
Yeah, that's when we decommission West Rocky.
Decommission West Rocky, upgrade of South Rocky, yeah, all of those components, and the timing and when we need to do them.
Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor, and through to Peter. Sorry, I asked the question earlier, but a bit premature, but I'll ask it again. Footpaths, 200 metres out of 1,000 for this budget for this year. Are we going to achieve the full 1,000, or is there...
I may be wrong here, but I think that KPI is a carryover of last year's. And council allocated funds for 1,000 metres or 2,000 metres, and all that happened is we didn't complete it. We constructed 700 metres last year, and we carried over 300 this year. So the KPI should be actually 300, and we will complete that work. Okay.
All right. Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you, Councillor Latcham. Any further questions? Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. And finally, if there's any gaps, no gaps. Okay, so that concludes the update on the progress report. I just want to draw again to councillors' attention, and it's been touched on by Alicia and Damon, that within the report there are 2 proposed amendments. Peter did mention one further one, however that was actually adopted in November last year, so that's been done previously at the table. So just those 2 that are they're contained in attachment 2 of the report in relation to the reconciliation action plan and the development of the concept plan for the showgrounds and the Victoria Park site redevelopment. And the request there is to extend the timeframes for each of those to the end of the financial year. And if that's all, that concludes my part.
Thank you so much. Actually, I've got to commend the presentation. That was very thorough and very good. I think all the councillors there really appreciated the effort that you'd put into today's presentation. Thank you very much. So, it comes to moving that Council receives the 2021-22 Operational Plan Quarterly Report for Quarter 2 as at 30th of December 2021 and adopt the proposed amendments to the 2021-22 Operational Plan detailed within the report and contained in attachment 3. Someone happy to move? Move Councillor Kirkland, seconded Councillor Wickerson. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much for that. We move on. No notice of motion. No questions on notice. Any urgent business or questions, councillors? So, if there's no urgent business, that brings the meeting to an end. So I'll officially declare the meeting closed at 11:5. Thank you very much for everyone.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine. Everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line. Ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine. Everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line. Ain't nobody left behind.